look at things on a global scale, first of all, I mean, we know that many of Africa's economies have remained relatively unscathed from the global recession. What's your take on how business in Africa has weathered the storm?
Well, Alishia, if you look at the predictions for the growth rate for developed and emerging markets for this year, it's generally believed that Africa's growth will be around 4 to 5%, and the global economies would be around 0 to 0.5%. So it's safe to say that Africa has weathered the storm very well and is coming out of that crisis pretty strongly as well.
Looking at how developed business or business in the developed world is looking at emerging markets and developing countries like those on the African continent, how do you see their perceptions shifting with this coming to the fore?
I think the crisis has definitely brought in sharp focus the need to focus on emerging markets. If we look at the level of foreign direct investment in the first few months of this year, already Africa is attracting more foreign direct investment than the mature markets of the world. And if we look at the megatrend survey that Ernst Young has just completed, one of the lessons that are coming very strongly from that is mature markets looking for growth need to look into the emerging markets, and Africa being one of those. We need to look at safety of supply of natural resources. Africa is abundant in natural resources. The stability of the African markets through the economic crisis has also provided that much more of an attraction to be in this continent. So definitely more global interest in Africa.
To the extent of what kind of FDI inflows as far as it's concerned looking through this year?
So primarily what you're seeing is investment from the East, China, India, China driven by government, India by private enterprise to secure natural resources. And you're seeing a number of countries do deals where infrastructure investment is swapped for natural resource. I think this is a sound basis of making sure that some legacy is left behind, that Africa's production capacity grows. We're seeing other markets of the world interested in Africa for its population. It is also now hitting the 1 billion mark, as is widely publicized, and this is becoming quite an exciting consumer market if you're able to position your products for this market as well. So countries in the West are also interested in Africa.
Looking at that being the scenario, what do African businesses and government leaders alike at this stage need to be doing to ensure that Africa attracts more than its fair share of FDI, if that's the potential we're looking at moving forward? Because we certainly need to be focusing on increasing investor confidence.
I think that's a good question, Alishia, and it's linked to understanding who are we competing with. We're competing for capital on a global scale. And when emerging markets are grouped, we typically group with the so-called BRIC countries. And every one of them are so different in demographic. China, as an example, is centrally controlled and a billion population and competes on the basis of low-margin manufacturing. India, on the other hand, billion population, competes in high-margin technology. And here's where the challenge for Africa is. In as much as it's a billion people, it's more than 30 countries, different economic systems, different degrees of democracy, centralist control. And I think as Africans, we need to harness our positives, our abundant natural resources, the youth in terms of the population dynamics, the enormous entrepreneurship, to find those differentiators to effectively compete.
Looking at effectively competing, what can we realistically be doing to ensure that businesses remain competitive moving forward?
Competitiveness will come from differentiation and access to markets. Now, we're already seeing a number of economic blocks being developed across the continent, the East African bloc, SADC, etc. And I think the more these trading blocks are developed, the more trade flows, goods and services flow more easily within economic hubs, and then more broadly on the continent. That opens the markets to opens bigger markets to existing companies. I think we already have globally competitive companies. If we look at our telco companies in terms of what they've achieved, the likes of Vodacom, MTN across the continent, and essentially creating the right enabling environment for more of those to succeed across the continent.